What's up, YouTube? We are watching the Wuthering Waves review by IGN. Wuthering Waves is a fantastic game, and IGN is, as we all know, a very reputable and fantastic reviewer of video games. They always get it right. They never have any odd takes or do any odd behaviors, disrespectful behaviors. So we're gonna find out what IGN thinks of Wuthering Waves, because I feel like we're gonna be in for a good one. Come join us on Twitch if you ever have time at twitch.tv/hex_juice. We are live daily at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It makes your pee-pee bigger, it makes you more handsome, makes your brain bigger, and it gets you more maidens. Exponential maiden growth here on twitch.tv/hex_juice. Let's get into it. Subscribe.
Should be fast. You're awake.
Right from the start, Wuthering Waves' odd mix of swords, guns, and spirits sets the stage for its apocalyptic battlefront, somehow combining disparate ideas.
I'm just gonna go ahead and be disrespectful right away. That was some of the most horrendous dog shit gameplay I've ever seen of this game in my life, and very much by someone who used to play Genshin Impact.
And spirit sets the stage for its apocalyptic battlefront, somehow combining disparate ideas into a combat spectacle.
Let the wind.
What does disparate mean? Markedly distinct in quality or character. All right, I don't think that was a negative thing to say. I just didn't know what that word meant, sorry.
Roar.
This story-driven gacha RPG will have you twirling like a ballerina, dodging attacks, and then passing the baton to a teammate to slam the enemy with a fish-like dragon. Unfortunately, while those flashy, fast-paced
I don't think that dragon is fish-like at all.
fights and its parkour-like movement are exciting, Wuthering Waves also fails to impress in a few other key areas, like—
Wait, did he say story-driven? Oh my god, there's just been so much. Wait one second, did he say story-driven?
Let the winds roar.
this story-driven gacha RPG will
Okay, all right, okay. It's already going really well. I didn't even catch that.
have you twirling like a ballerina, dodging attacks, and then passing the baton to a teammate to slam the enemy with a fish-like dragon. Unfortunately, while
It's not fish-like, it's just like the Chinese stylization of dragon.
those flashy, fast-paced fights and its parkour-like movement are exciting, Wuthering
Yeah.
Waves also fails to impress in a few other key areas, like its lackluster story that makes the skip button look tempting at times.
So you don't know why you're here, where you're from, or who you are.
Okay, gonna be real. Bro did not finish the story. Whoever reviewed this did not finish the story. That's also apparent in the fact that we are using the first 2 seconds of gameplay. What is this? Like first 2 minutes of the game is this. Bro did not finish the story. The story is not lackluster the whole way through. If we're doing a review, we should probably finish the story. But whatever, it is IGN.
Wuthering Waves is all about action. Every character has an element and weapon type associated with them, as well as individual skills that you can level up. However, how you use those characters isn't quite a copy-paste of similar action RPGs like Genshin Impact. That's thanks in part to the intro and outro skills that can be used when you swap between each character in your 3-person team.
And the lack of an elemental reaction system in Genshin Impact.
Watch and learn.
Which activate cool special attacks like a fire-infused shootout. You also charge up a separate skill gauge by dishing out damage or successfully dodging and parrying enemy attacks.
Moment of resonance.
And these systems add an appreciated layer of strategy to how you build your party and when exactly to change teammates. It's a little disappointing that the elemental system is essentially just a palette swap between characters, but they're—
Yeah, no, we should have made it more like Genshin Impact and given it like an elemental reaction system. He's right. There's not an elemental system. Characters just have elements. It's a little bit different than what you're saying. It's not an elemental system. They just have elements, because if they just shot guns, it wouldn't be all that interesting. You know?
actual movesets are still varied enough that experimenting with team comps is quite fun.
Yeah.
Gear is also not quite what you'd expect. Rather than using traditional equipment like helmets and gloves, you strengthen your characters with echoes, animal-like companions.
In what gacha game did they use helmets and gloves? I guess kind of that's what artifacts are. I mean, they look like— the way that was worded was like we're talking about like MMOs or something. I'm sorry. It's just so really weird. Nitpicky. I guess you could say that that's nitpicky. Just the way he said it was odd. It's fair that I'm nitpicking. That's fair.
That increase your attack, elemental damage, and so on.
Yes.
The strength of those buffs depends on how many of the same type you equip at once, and each echo takes up some of the limited space in your equipment slots.
Yes.
These restrictions encourage you to figure out how to squeeze in the most buffs you can, even if that means temporarily using echoes with suboptimal stats. The best part about echoes is how they tie into the environment. As you fight enemies and bosses, they'll sometimes leave behind ghost-like shells of themselves for you to absorb and convert into echoes. That makes exploration more appealing because finding different types of monsters could mean getting access to new kinds of buffs. Not only does this system reward you with interesting gear for your characters, it encourages you to fill out your map as you go. Bulldozing through the same enemies over and over again to collect echoes can start to feel repetitive after a few dozen hours, but at least they also get you points in a collection tracking guidebook, as well as a battle pass.
Okay, so this person like really didn't play much of this game at all because you finished the guidebook in like the first week or two. This is our dailies essentially in this game. Because there is a tracking guidebook, but it's like a beginner thing to give you some extra resources and stuff and to kind of guide you into what to do next. But you finished that very, very early on. And the way that they're saying it is like it goes on for a while, which it doesn't. That is like an extreme early game part of it.
Full of rewards. So there are reasons to hunt them beyond just upping your stats. Gotta catch them all.
Okay.
Even when happily farming, one part of Wuthering Waves that totally falls flat is its story.
The first half of the story for sure, yeah.
Kuro Games has openly spoken about how it had to revamp the entire story ahead of launch. And sadly, the version we ultimately got still falls short, with uneven pacing and too much exposition. The beginning is full of unnatural, lengthy conversations that use cryptic terminology you need to look up in encyclopedias and loading screens to actually understand.
Or you can just like ignore it like I did and figure you'll figure it out eventually, which is what I did, and it actually works out quite well. I'll be honest, like there is a lot of jargon, and that's very, very fair. The first half of the story is very like rough and kind of not that great. The VA obviously doesn't make it better. Honestly, it's not that important that you understand all the jargon. A lot of it kind of gets filled in as you go, and I don't know, it's just, I don't think the whole story is that bad. I think it's just the beginning.
And it doesn't get any more compelling once you do.
Oh, by Pangu Terminal, she means the gourd-shaped device every resonator has.
Your main character follows the classic trope of an amnesiac protagonist that seemingly appears out of nowhere, with a generic story that revolves around the secrets of their past.
Yeah.
That can work if done right, but this setup feels confusing and undeserved because of all the history and jargon thrown at you, without any explanation as to how all of it connects.
I think it does end up getting explained if you finish the story. Like, this is from like Act 4, or 5, or 6. My thing is I don't know how it didn't get explained if they finish the story, because this specific shot is from either the second to last act or the last act. I don't remember if that's 5 or 6. So like they did quite a good amount of the story. Basically everything gets pulled together in my opinion. There's nothing that I went like, oh well, what am I still confused about? Like I wasn't really confused about all of that. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what bro is talking about here.
Things start to clear up in the later acts of the first chapter, only for it to introduce more characters that divide your attention before you even get to know them. And it doesn't help that the voice acting sounds borderline monotone across the board, even—
I don't think it's across the board. I do think this is a fair criticism of some of the voice acting
during intense cutscenes.
I'm fine too.
Yang Yang is the worst version of this, and I'm not gonna sit here and defend it. Yang Yang's voice acting, whoever directed it or whatever happened there, it was really bad. I think that main character was also very monotone, and I think that's fair, but across the board is very unfair because there's a lot of very good voice acting performances in this game.
I've never seen such a formidable tacit discord before.
Side quests don't do much to deepen the connection between the characters and the setting either. You can witness the dangers of this apocalyptic environment, like dying NPCs and comrades that melodramatically tell you to go on without them. But there's nothing that truly makes you think anyone important will get hurt.
Anyway, please allow me to introduce myself. I am—
Okay, I don't know how that's a criticism. It's more so that you're all working together to save like normal people, because we're all kind of like superheroes-y, like we got special powers and stuff and we're like important. I think it's more so about protecting like the world. I don't know that it not feeling like any of the characters could get hurt matters.
Tao Chi.
Small things, like the very few moments when your hero suddenly speaks despite otherwise being largely silent, are also jarring. At some points, it's enough to just make you want to mash buttons and quickly skip through a tedious conversation or leave a scene on autoplay in the background.
I feel like he keeps saying things that are not even true about the part of the story that he's showing on screen. Like, I feel like he's saying things that are true about some part of the story, but then they're like, oh, I just want to mash buttons and I don't care about this part of the story, when it's like Alto and Encore have some of the best dialogue and some of the most fun parts of the story. I found it very delightful. Was there a bit of dialogue bloat? Obviously, yes, it's in every gacha game at this point. But like to say like, I just wanted a button mash through Encore and Alto? That part of the story was so fun. Like, what are you on?
Kuro Games occasionally attempts more meaningful side quests, like one about a monster mourning its mate and a researcher who similarly lost their partner, but not enough of them stand out.
I don't think I care if the side quests are all that meaningful. Some of them are, some of them aren't. I think some of the side quests are really fun. There's a side quest where it's basically just like a very, it's an increasing difficulty, like parkour side quest. That one's really fun. In general, they're only going to put important story stuff in the main story patches. But I also skip anything non-voiced. I don't see, if it's not that important if they didn't voice act it, I don't listen to it.
Seems.
These memorable quests are more of a rarity than the norm. Even when you have big side quests waiting to be completed after the roughly
Then skip them.
20-hour main story, the large text blocks that always accompany them make
20-hour main story. 20-hour main story. What main story? Who? 20-hour main story where? What were you doing? What were you doing with the main story that it took you 20 hours? Could you not fight the bosses? Like, what game are we talking about? 20-hour main story. It was like 6 or 7,
large text blocks that always accompany them make them daunting to get started. Playing through these missions for their rewards alone is at least a compelling incentive, because they won't exactly have you perched on the edge of your seat expecting some big surprise.
Thank goodness.
I want to know if the person who wrote this review played the full story, because they're showing gameplay from multiple parts of the story. But I want to know if the person who reviewed it, which I don't even think is the person narrating this, I want to know if they played all of the story, because I don't feel that they did.
Thankfully, the rewards for climbing the ranks are tantalizing enough on their own. Wuthering Waves uses a fairly standard gacha system where you trade in-game currency for random character and weapon pulls.
It's not that standard. If you don't know that much about gacha games, because this is IGN and they do any kind of game, I guess it's not that interesting for me to go into why the gacha system is actually pretty good in this game. It's whatever. But I mean, the gacha system in this game is heavily improved from other gachas in similar games like Genshin Impact. That is a fact. I don't think it's a very standard. I thought it was, I think that Wuthering Waves' gacha system is a lot more fair, honestly, like in a lot of ways.
Complete with the usual pity system to make sure you eventually get a high-quality reward.
Yeah.
That said, this pity system is more generous than many other games in the genre.
Okay, they at least mentioned it. Fair.
Only taking 80 gacha pulls to get a guaranteed 5-star character or item, versus the 90+ you'll generally see. It also
And there is a guaranteed weapon banner at 80 pulls. And the standard banner is better. But I guess since this is like a comprehensive review by a non-gacha specific individual, we're going to leave that out, I suppose. But in terms of gacha rates, this is a significantly better gacha than Genshin, which is what he's referring to with the 90 pity, ultimately.
also offers tons of free resources during the initial honeymoon phase, too, handing out dozens of pulls whenever you climb 10 or so ranks, alongside other systems that make them particularly.
Did he just say dozens of pulls and then it was 2?
Handing out dozens of pulls whenever you climb 10 or so.
I mean, technically I'm saying like less, but like dozens of pulls too.
Ranks alongside other systems that make them particularly easy to earn at the beginning. You're even guaranteed to get at least one random 5-star character right away, plus another 5-star character of your choice after 80 pulls.
Yes.
And on top of that, Wuthering Waves is handing out a free pass that will be available.
Why was this just posted today? Why is this talking about like it's about to happen? This already happened. So this is also outdated. That's fun. Oh yeah, that's great. Oh yeah, no, that's awesome. No, it's both non-specific, weird, and nitpicky, and also outdated.
Available until next year for another 5-star character. That means you could have at least 2 top-tier fighters in your party within the first few hours of playing, and a third if you stick around for a couple more.
This flower is for you. I hope it makes you happy.
You're still at the luck of the draw beyond that, but it feels generous out of the gate, especially for any gacha game fans burnt out on bad pulls elsewhere. Some of the characters
I think also the characters are typically like pretty useful across the board rather than some characters being like almost unusable. There are very few characters on this roster that are like bad, like not worth building at all.
Characters do feel underpowered compared to others, which is sort of inevitable in games where the cast grows over time like this. However, Wuthering Waves does its best to offer future-proof free-to-play characters that'll make it easier to build optimized rotations without having to constantly keep up with the new releases.
Yes, you are guaranteed a healer from your first pull on the standard banner, which is Baisha, who does a lot of healing. She's not like the craziest, most cracked character ever, but healers are always pretty useful. Your main character, both forms of the main character, are absolutely fantastic. Shisha's pretty meh, but if you like her, you can use her and she's very cool. But like a lot of the easy to obtain characters are very, very good and will be good longer term. I think it's great.
You unlock 6 4-star characters for free through the story that can charge your party's energy, strengthen their attacks, and heal as needed.
Commence healing.
It's great that this foundation, plus those guaranteed 5-star characters, make it so that beginners can start building strong team comps that feel satisfying right away.
Moment of resonance.
Wuthering Waves' combat-heavy action, quick movement, and enticing Echo collection enhance combat and exploration enough to let it respectably stand out from its competitors.
Storm, hear my command.
The fights are polished and sophisticated, rewarding reactivity and optimal builds and teams. On top of that, the Echo equipment system ties your character progression into the environment in a way that encourages you to uncover every inch of the map, which can be satisfying despite the repetitive process of fighting overworld mobs.
I think it's very repetitive if you don't know how to use your characters very well. I also think it's probably pretty repetitive if you're using this particular team. Probably doesn't feel that good because you're doing like 5 damage. This is not a good example of combat in this game, but you know, it's IGN. We got to give them some space. They're just silly little guys. They're not the best gamers.
Unfortunately, the story is a bland, exposition-heavy slog with dull writing and voice acting.
I think this is not fair. I don't think this is fair. I don't think it's fair to say that the entire story was bad and the entire voice acting was bad. That's why I don't think it's fair. I think this is an unfair, unnuanced opinion, a problem of probably someone who didn't finish the entirety of the story and didn't give it really a chance, because the second half of the story, once Scar shows up, gets much better. A lot of the voice acting is very good. From a lot of the characters, it's very good. I think Shisha, Yang Yang, and main character are the primary issues of the VAs, and that's not acceptable, and it should have been better, okay? I'm not gonna, like, defend that. However, if we're trying to have a fair professional review, we should probably include the fact that there are lots of very good voice acting performances, and the story does get significantly better later on, but I don't think they would know that because I don't think they did that.
Can then convert its reverberation into an echo for use in battle.
So while
Like, it's also the beginning of the story every time with Yang Yang. Using her specifically as the example is only used to just strengthen this point that all of the voice acting was bad. She has some of the worst voice acting in the game.
the quests aren't its main draw, Wuthering Waves is still worth looking into as a refreshing spin on the typical open-world gacha RPG. For more, check out our recent reviews of Disney Dreamlight Valley or the Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door remake. And for everything else, stick with IGN.
No, I don't think I will. This is a very uncomprehensive review. I think 7 is pretty fair. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't think this was a particularly comprehensive review done by someone who had given the game enough of a chance to be very comprehensive. I think that there was a lot of stuff missing. I think a lot of things were covered kind of bizarrely and poorly, and a lot of the wording sort of showed I don't know how to say it, like I don't know if it's like somebody who doesn't play a lot of gacha. The wording was very weird. I don't know. But like, you focused a lot on the main story and categorize this as a game that is a story-driven game, and I don't think that's particularly fair when realistically, most of the time you're playing this game has nothing to do with the story. It's like, yeah, the story is shit. Oh my god, the story was so shit. The voice acting was like so shit. Holy fuck, the story was so bad. I'm not gonna have any nuance about this that shows that I actually finished the story either, but the story was so bad. Oh my god, listen to Yang Yang. Isn't Yang Yang so bad? Oh my god, listen to Yang Yang's voice acting. It's so bad. The voice acting is so bad. Look at what Yang Yang sounds like. Yeah, the combat and exploration is good though. 7. That's not a very comprehensive review. Calling this a story-driven game is very bizarre to me. And like, there's a lot of the voice acting performances that were very, very good. So yeah, I give this review a 3 out of 10. As always, IGN has no nuance and has not done enough research to actually give a comprehensive review. Not shocking, as usual. Let me know what you think of this review down below in the comments section. Come join us on twitch.tv/hex_juice if you ever have time. I'll see you guys later. Boo bye!